The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending, where we believe in a better life through better business. Here, we help you aspire to greatness, achieve your goals, and ascend to new heights. Whether you're starting, scaling, or exiting, we're here to empower you with inspiring stories, enlightening discussions, and transformative resources to help you accelerate your success. Now, it's time for Entrepreneurs Ascending. Hello, welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending. Great to have you all here with us, whether or not you're listening live or you're listening later. And this week we have Brian Schraut back, and we talked a little bit before about family business and some of those transitions that are involved. And Brian talked about some of the dynamics, especially around communication and conflict, that are often associated with a family business. But we wanted to this week talk more about ownership transitions and exits. And this week we're going to have a bit of an overview of some of the ways to navigate these types of changes within an organization. It's certainly a topic that we're going to dig into a lot more in the future. But we are honored to have Brian on with us again. And Brian is actually a coach with Time for Success, our business coaching organization. He actually came from the HVAC industry. And if you perhaps didn't see the previous show, he had that HVAC company for over 25 years after getting it from his father and buying it from his father as a family business, and then ended up selling it. And that's ultimately the dream for a lot of business owners, to be able to take a business, grow it, and sell it. So he's going to talk a little bit about some of the pros and the cons and the lessons learned around that. So let's go ahead and bring Brian on with us now.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me again.
Thanks for being here again, Brian. It's great to have you here with us. So, and Brian, we're going to talk a little bit today, like we discussed, those transitions. And initially with that transition of the family business, can you tell me a little bit more and remind us really what made you finally decide, or tell me a little bit more about that decision to take over the family business and take it over from your father?
Sure. So, I grew up in the business. I had other part-time jobs through high school. And so forth, but really, always was working in the business, and it really just it appealed to me. I had great motivation to want to do sales. I enjoyed the sales side of stuff. And I really, a lot of my friends were a lot older than me. Some were 4 or 5 years older. One was even 10 years older. So they were already well into their careers while I was still in college. So it made it, where I wanted more, not necessarily keep up with them, but, I'm looking at what they're doing, and that's what I wanted. So I became very driven as far as what I wanted to do, and having the opportunity to, to see the business, to kind of see where it was and where I thought I could take it, with the ability and the knowledge that I had. And that's what really made me want to strive to take it over. And then there's also, that legacy part of it, that you're proud of what you have, or your name, and so forth.
Okay. So you had some friends who had previously, or you had some friends who, I guess, had some sort of success in business. Maybe they had their own businesses, and you wanted that as well. And so you saw them kind of, they were, you said 4 or 5 years ahead of you. And so you wanted to be able to catch up with them and play at that game as well. Now it sounds like though having that family legacy was a pretty big component about it. Like, it seems like there's kind of some pros and cons. There's a lot to live up to, but then also maybe some new directions to take it. So was it a difficult decision when it came to the family legacy, or did you find that more motivating than intimidating?
It was just more part of it. Um, it was just something you just became proud of. I don't think it was. I mean, yeah, you really you think about moving on and and what that legacy is, but is more just something you're just proud. I think more. I was just more proud of it and what we were able to do and what we were able to build.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So what was that initial vision whenever you took it over? So you're taking it from your father. You're buying it from your father, and you've got some new vision, right, for where you want to go. So just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with like with my father, it was, well, this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way we should always continue to do it. Or he was open to new ideas. He would accept the new ideas, but would never want to implement those ideas. Perfect idea. Simple, quick thing is I remember buying this brand new tool, brand new Sawzall, I think of what it was, and it was a big deal for him was to go buy this brand new tool, and then we bought it and we put it under his desk. And I was like, okay, why'd we even bother this if we're not going to use it? Well, we don't want to scratch it, so it was like counterproductive on things like that. So it was a matter of a lot of times viewing stuff and having to show them, hey, this is what we changed, we did, and this was the outcome, and this is why we need to continue to do it, versus just kind of doing or waiting for him to agree to it. And I think that's a lot of times and I've seen now with a lot of family businesses is, sometimes you just kind of have to, because they're not stuck in their ways, but they're proud of the way that they've always done things, and they don't necessarily see that there could be a better way. And sometimes you have to show them that.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of pride that comes with it, right? I mean, whenever somebody's run the business for 20, 30, 40 years and, they've had a certain level of success, I mean, it's fair that they have a lot of pride. And it can be, can really be hard to watch that baby grow up. But I guess, that in this case, you and the business had the same father, right?
Right.
Although, which one was the big brother, I guess? Was it the business or was it you?
I don't know. Depends on what day of the week it was, right?
Right. So during this transition period, what were some of the big hurdles that you faced and that you had to overcome?
A lot of it was starting to learn money, cash flow. That's one of the biggest things nowadays that people have to know numbers. We ran the business for the longest time based on gut, based on feel. You didn't have time to necessarily get all the books reconciled each month, so you just put it off and just put it off and just put it off. But then when you try to go to make decisions, you're just guessing. And until we really got to that point of knowing the numbers and watching the numbers, that's when the business really started, in my case, to take off, is because I started to understand numbers and just you see it a lot nowadays that people just don't know their numbers.
So in a family business, it's kind of no different than in any sort of business. I mean, you really need to know your numbers, especially whenever you're going into that transition, so that you know what you're walking into. I mean, at least with a typical business transaction or outside of a family business or maybe a friend, although you should still do it in either case, you'll have like a certified business valuation specialist. Did you guys have somebody like that who came in and made sure the books were cleaned and made sure that you understood the actual value of the business and all that, or was it just kind of more of a handshake deal?
Ours was more of a handshake deal by all means. A lot of it, basically what we did is we had four, and there's probably a lot of industries, but in heating and cooling industry, even though you're all competitors, a lot of guys you're friends with. And so I had four friends, four acquaintances that had been buying businesses, look at our stuff. So they signed NDAs for us and just said, hey, can you do me a favor? And what would you give me a value if you were to buy the business as is right now? So we had those four guys did that for us. And so we kind of just took the average of those four. And then that's what we went to the attorney and had the business book, was valued at this dollar amount, based on these four competitive offers essentially. And then that's what I purchased the business, for, and then got a little bit of a discount for being the son, as well, but, and the promise of taking care of them and everything. But, yeah, that's really how we kind of went to it on that side of it.
Okay. And so what about like you took it over, and anytime that there's new leadership, there's going to be some changes. Did you did you go right in with some ideas on some strategic changes that you were going to make?
Yeah, there was certainly, growth had to happen, just from where we were, knowing, overhead versus revenue costs. So the growth had to happen. So things had to change quickly, labor market and different things, when I took over wasn't anything like it was like right now. So there was some changes of some things, and some union, we were a union shop and becoming a non-union shop, and and just different things like that allowed different labor things that had to change. So kind of getting the labor force kind of all facing the correct way. That was kind of the beginning, but knowing that we had to grow revenue was the biggest thing.
Okay. So, and then I'm guessing that your financial controls, you had to institute some changes in your financial controls whenever you started as well. So, I mean, what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, that was, before it was, well, we'll get everything invoiced in, in the system whenever we get to it. And then it was, you just, it was, bookkeeping was kind of always the afterthought. Well, we'll do it when we get to the slow season. We'll get to it when it's, in the HVAC world, January, February, March are still 3 slowest months. We'll get to it then. And, biggest thing was changing, and, weekly we're making sure the books are up to date. And, if you're having to stay up nights, weekends, whatever it's got to be to get it done, we had to make sure that we were doing that. So we were tracking and doing things the way we should be doing.
Okay. So, getting that tracking into place and making sure that you guys weren't, pushing things off, and really making that a priority, making the financial changes, financial controls a priority.
Yeah. And most people just think, yeah, it's there. It's not going to change. Not going to, but you got, it's so hard, and you used to reinforce it so much, as you have to know your numbers to be able to manage your business. You just can't go by your gut.
So looking back, if you were to tell yourself, like before you guys actually made the changeover, would you have tried to get your dad to put some of these financial controls in before you took it over so that you had a better idea of what the numbers look like? Or,
and I don't think there was that they didn't want to do those. I just don't think they just had the time.
Okay.
It just, and that was part of me coming in, that I was able to do a lot of the stuff that they didn't either know how to do or didn't have time to do. So, and you're going to see that in small family businesses, but I think it was just one of those things that just you could put, they felt they could push it to the side and can get it done whenever. That type of thing.
Okay. So as you were starting to implement some changes and having your own vision for the future of the business, how did you manage that dynamic during that transition of maintaining some legacy, but then also modernizing the business and really having more focus on growth?
Yeah, it was, there was definitely some knockdown, drag out fights, and there would be times you could consider, the Tuttles, the Paul Senior, Paul Junior. That'd be my dad and I. Sometimes with some yelling matches about certain things, and you're wanting to spend money on advertising and saying, if we need to grow this top number, we do have to spend more money in advertising, not just what we've always done. and expecting different results. So, you had to definitely to do that. So yeah, there was a lot of give and take. And again, a lot of times, sometimes it was just me, once I had the control, just doing the stuff and not necessarily even asking them, just because I knew it needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And then after it was kind of done, he was like, "Oh boy, I've been doing this for a long time." Well, because you didn't want to, but those are a lot of the dynamics. I think, especially as we work with some family-owned companies, you with fathers and sons and daughters, and you really do see that, how
Mm-hmm.
some of those things are just, and like you said, if they've done it a certain way and they've been successful, why should they change it? That's what they feel, but they don't see that necessarily if they do change and, test, that's the other thing we always like to preach is, test and measure, try something, test, measure it. If it works, then continue. If it doesn't, then let's go somewhere else. But to be able to do those things, I think, it takes some time to get through.
Mm-hmm. So having that transition under your belt, knowing some of the things that you didn't plan for, that you should have planned for, and as you were kind of looking at this time of kicking around the idea of exiting your business and selling your business, just kind of tell me, like, what were some of the key factors that were going into that decision to, transition out?
Sure. So there's several things, personal stuff going on in my own personal life, with family. My father was, very sick, kind of getting towards the end of his life there. Um, you know, had definitely changed as far as I was running the business by the numbers and so forth, and we got to the point it was 3 consecutive years I hit the same revenue wall of $50,000, even though you're continually trying to grow. So there's quite a few different things that were contributing to that, to the decision then, but when you've got same revenue wall, but all your cost of materials have all gone up significantly, insurance has all gone up, every employee except for yourself had raises for the past 3 years, all those other things. So kind of when we start looking at the bottom number, it's like, okay, why am I working for others right now, and wasn't necessarily enjoying it. And own a business is stressful. I mean, you know that there's many sleepless nights worried about XYZ and ZYX for sure. And I just kind of got to the point where I was like, man, if I didn't have all this other stuff, I could just be doing this and just kind of enjoy things a little bit more. And that's kind of when I just started, looking into it. Nothing that was serious. And then as I started talking to a couple of companies, they were all very interested in purchasing. So it kind of, that portion of it made it a lot easier to really start pursuing it.
So you're kind of going through these things with trying to help your dad and be there for your dad, and wanting to be able to have more time with him. And he was being sick, or he was sick. He was having health issues, and just kind of your own stress and health issues and life issues. So as you were planning it out, like, what were some of the things, like, if I was going to be going and selling a business today, what would you tell me? What advice would you tell me in terms of just kind of getting that plan together?
Know what you want. Know what your end goal is, as far as and I think a lot of people, it's going to be kind of combination of the money, of what you're depending on where you're at. If you're done selling to retire versus selling to continue working like I was, what is that afterlife? And you say, what does that afterlife look like? And that's what you got to picture, what that is, or know what that looks like. And that's what you got to work towards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So beginning with the end in mind, knowing what your vision is, there's the business vision, but there's life vision, right? And knowing what you want. Is it now, as you were looking kind of, beyond, I mean, what were some of the factors that you were considering about life after the sale?
Yeah. So, being able to spend more time with my family, I mean, in business, I was able to be at my kids' things and coach sports and do those things. But there was always then that extra time that you're making up for that then you were away from your family, with those things. So, just looking for, some more time to be able to be with family, do some of the things that I enjoy doing that would just never have time to do, those types of things. And how much, at certain times, selfishly, how much better with quality of life be without the stress of running the business, where, instead of me worrying about, all of my employees as, family and their financial success and their success for what they're wanting, to just having to worry about my family's success and what I wanted. That's a big difference, I think.
Okay. So if somebody's looking to sell their business, right, they're looking for that exit plan. They need to really be thinking about, what am I going to do with my family? How am I going to spend more time with them? They're going to be looking at how they're going to, how they're going to finance these things too, right? So you're looking for a certain number whenever you're going to sell, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got
Okay.
it. And a lot of times, unfortunately, too, with a lot of small businesses, the value that the owner thinks the business is worth is a lot of time is not very accurate as well. So to know, you need to have an idea before you really kind of start going down that road, is what, realistically what value this is,
Mm-hmm.
like for my business, the true value I had was my recurring monthly revenue that I had in maintenance agreements. That was the true value of my company. If I didn't have a large base like I had, my company realistically wouldn't be worth a whole lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
for it. So in every business is different, and every, multiplier is different. And, some are doing gross, some are doing net, whatever it is. But, to be able to know ahead of time kind of how different businesses are valued. But when some of these smaller businesses, family businesses, they really believe they're worth a lot more than what they really are.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. A lot of, I run into that a lot, as a coach. A lot of people thinking they're going to sell their business for millions of dollars without ever actually talking to certified valuation specialist, or never really even just looking at, okay, what does it take? And so they never structured their books right. They kind of had this really huge number in mind, and they didn't realize that it was actually based off of their net profits,
Yeah.
as opposed to their just their overall revenue line, right? So were there some of those things that you kind of learned a little bit about that from working with your dad, but as it being a business deal, like where did you go to get some of that knowledge yourself to be able to make sure that you were doing it right?
Yeah. So, a lot of it was from, I had a mentor and a coach. My mentor was very knowledgeable in a lot of those things. So being able to talk with him about it, for sure, made things easier. Um, also belonged to, a mixed group, which was 9 other contractors around the country, that had all been, a lot of them had been going through a lot of the same things I had, either purchasing businesses, getting ready to sell their business, those types of things. So was able to really, pull on them, for knowledge and advice as well, for it to be able to get to that point.
Okay. So you're able to turn to like some coaches you had in your life, some mentors, some other people that you knew.
Correct.
So after the sale and looking back, tell me about some of the things that you learned about negotiating that final deal.
Yeah. A lot of it just, I guess, hindsight 2020 would have gotten more of the things that I would have thought, you know, that I thought were going to happen that didn't happen in writing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the things that you think or you feel is going to go a certain way, and you're like, well, yeah, that's just how I expect it to go, or what have you, and it goes against that, or different things happen, to allow that. So just to make sure that you have a lot of those things in writing for it ahead of time and not just
What
kind
are
of leave it up to chance.
what are some of those little things that a lot of people would just kind of assume might kind of work out that they really need to be thinking about?
If you're going to go to work for that company, what realistically that time frame is that they're wanting you to stay there for, what the pay structure is going to be, that it's in writing, not just started out this is what it was, and then a certain amount of time down the road it's changed. Having those structures in place. Just trying to stay very broad and very general. I mean, how and what they're expecting you to do, since you're now basically an employee instead of employer. So asking for that success scorecard, what am I going to be judged on? What am I expected to do? Having your job, a job description written for you, so you know what to expect, what to do, and not, okay, this is what I'm thinking I'm going to be doing in this new role. But that wasn't what it was, or it morphed into something else, and that's what they wanted you to do.
So even if it seems like your friends, as oftentimes, I mean, you might be friends with somebody that you're selling with, or they might seem very friendly. Things change after the deal's done, after the ink dries, maybe even before the ink dries, and making sure that there is not just some assumptions and some expectations just hanging in the air, so that at the end of the day, if emotions change or viewpoints change with the change of the season, you're not left out to dry, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of it too is, I've always been the trusting type of person. So just trusting that, hey, yeah, that's, we're on the same page, so I don't need that. You do need to. It's a business transaction. You need to get it in writing.
Yeah, because I've seen it where somebody will sell their business. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I'll work for this company," and then there might even be a discussion. I mean, it might even be in writing, what the salary might be, and maybe what the commitment is, even from the person who sold. Like maybe there's some sort of contract making that requiring that person to work for a certain amount of time. But then if for some reason the buyer decides that they want to just end the relationship, like there's no fallback necessarily from the seller. And so, they can make things very, very difficult for that seller, along the way, or they might be able to let that person go. And, that person thought, okay, well, there's going to be at least 2 years. I'm going to have some time to be able to just have that money coming in, and be able to kind of take it easy. I'll be able to put the rest of my money in the bank, and then it's gone. So I've seen it go a lot of different ways, because it's just not necessarily clear in the contracts, and a lot of assumptions are just made. And the thing that we talk about always as coaching is there's expectations and there's assumptions, and you got to get documented agreements, right?
Right. Got to find that agreement. Written agreement.
Written agreement, yeah. And that, as a leader, I mean, that's important with your team members, but then especially whenever you're talking about an actual exiting process as well. So, well, I know we're kind of coming up on time here, and this whole conversation around exit planning, we're going to have lots and lots more conversations and lots more guests, and we'll probably have Brian on talking a little bit more about maybe even some of the specifics of how to plan this out in the future. So I appreciate your time today, Brian. And
no problem. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's always fun digging into these things, and, being able to share your own life experiences that will hopefully help some folks out there who are kind of maybe in a similar situation that are trying to figure out their next best steps. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody listening, and we look forward to seeing you here next week.
Sounds great. We'll see you.
Thank you for being with us today. But now is the time to put what we talked about into practice. Remember, your family, employees, and community are depending on you to rise up and win. The great news is you're not alone. You're part of a resurgence of entrepreneurs who are ready to take their business, life, and impact to the next level. and we're going to do it together. This show is powered by Time for Success, where we help business owners every day who want more freedom and wealth while building a legacy of positive impact. Please follow Time for Success on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for more helpful strategies and tools for creating the business and life of your dreams.